The sun was setting on a small town, casting long shadows over the deserted streets. A group of teenagers had gathered, each with a thirst for adventure and a love of exploring abandoned places. They had heard about an old animal shelter on the outskirts of town that had been closed for years, and they were determined to see what was inside. The shelter was a sprawling, decrepit building that looked as if it had been abandoned for decades. The windows were boarded up, and the door hung off its hinges. The group of teenagers approached the building cautiously, their flashlights illuminating the way as they stepped inside. The shelter was eerily quiet, and the only sound was the crunching of broken glass under their feet. The air was musty, and the walls were covered in peeling paint and cobwebs. The group split up, each exploring a different part of the building. One of the teens stumbled upon a room filled with rows of cages, and he called out to the others to come and see. They were amazed by what they saw, and they explored the room, peering into the cages and marveling at the size and strength of the animals that had once lived there. Suddenly, they heard a noise coming from one of the cages. They approached it cautiously, and they were shocked to see a pit bull lying on the ground, its eyes shining in the darkness. The animal was growling softly, and the group of teens realized that they were in grave danger. The group of teenagers stood frozen in front of the pit bull, afraid to make any sudden movements. The animal was growling softly, its eyes locked onto them as it lay on the ground. The teens were unsure of what to do, and they were starting to feel like their adventure was about to turn into a nightmare. Suddenly, the pit bull sprang to its feet, barking ferociously and baring its teeth. The teens screamed and scattered, running in all directions as the animal chased after them. They ran through the maze of cages, trying to find a way out of the room and back to safety. The pit bull was relentless, and it seemed like it was getting faster and angrier with each passing moment. The teens were terrified, and they felt like they were running for their lives. They finally stumbled upon a door that led out of the room, and they burst through it, gasping for air. They found themselves in a long, dark hallway, and they knew that they were far from safe. The pit bull was still after them, and they could hear its barking and growling echoing through the building. They ran as fast as they could, but they could hear the animal getting closer and closer. Just when they thought all was lost, they saw a glimmer of light in the distance. They ran towards it, and they stumbled out of the building, into the cool night air. They were exhausted and shaken, but they were alive. They looked back at the building, and they saw the pit bull standing in the doorway, barking furiously. The group of teenagers walked away from the abandoned animal shelter, trying to put as much distance between themselves and the pit bull as possible. They were still shaken from their encounter, and they were having trouble processing what had just happened. As they walked, they heard a sound coming from the bushes beside the road. They stopped in their tracks, and they peered into the darkness, trying to see what was making the noise. Suddenly, the pit bull emerged from the bushes, snarling and barking. The teens screamed and ran, but the pit bull was too fast. It caught up to them, and it started attacking them one by one. The teens fought back, trying to fend off the animal, but it was too strong. They were overpowered, and they soon found themselves lying on the ground, being mauled by the pit bull. Just when they thought all was lost, a man appeared from out of nowhere. He had a tranquilizer gun in his hand, and he aimed it at the pit bull. He fired, and the animal fell to the ground, unconscious. The man approached the group of teens, and he helped them to their feet. The man was a local animal control officer, and he had been tracking the pit bull for weeks. He explained to the teens that the animal had escaped from the shelter several months ago, and it had been causing chaos ever since. He had been searching for the animal, trying to capture it before it hurt anyone else. The group of teenagers were recovering in the hospital, nursing their wounds from the attack by the pit bull. They were still in shock from what had happened, and they were trying to come to terms with the fact that they had nearly died. Meanwhile, the pit bull had regained consciousness and escaped from the animal control facility. It was back on the loose, and it was more dangerous than ever. The animal control officers were searching for it, but it was proving to be a difficult task. The pit bull was clever and elusive, and it seemed to have a sixth sense when it came to avoiding capture. The teens started to receive threatening messages, and they soon realized that the pit bull was targeting them specifically. They were terrified, and they didn't know what to do. They knew that they had to fight for their survival, and they started to take self-defense classes to prepare themselves. One night, they heard a noise outside their window, and they knew that the pit bull was back. They sprang into action, using the skills they had learned in self-defense class. They fought the animal off, using a combination of quick thinking and brute strength. The fight was intense, and it lasted for what seemed like hours. But in the end, the teens emerged victorious, having managed to subdue the pit bull and tie it up. They called the animal control officers, and they were finally able to get the animal back into custody. The pit bull was in the animal control facility, awaiting its fate. The group of teenagers had been to see it, and they were amazed at how calm and docile the once dangerous animal had become. The animal control officers had been working with the pit bull, trying to get it to trust them. They had been feeding it and giving it attention, and they had noticed that the animal had started to respond to their efforts. They realized that the pit bull wasn't a naturally aggressive animal, but that it had become that way due to its treatment at the hands of humans. The teens were fascinated by the transformation that had taken place in the animal, and they started to visit it regularly. They had become attached to the pit bull, and they wanted to see it find a home where it could live out the rest of its days in peace, and so, the story of the pit bull came full circle. From being an abandoned and abused animal, to a dangerous and unpredictable beast, to a loving and gentle therapy animal, the pit bull had undergone a remarkable transformation. The group of teenagers who had once been its victims had become its champions, and they had helped to give the animal a new lease on life. They had learned that even the most feared and dangerous creatures could be tamed with love and understanding, and they had been changed by the experience. Years went by, and the group of teenagers stayed in touch, sharing updates on the pit bull's progress as a therapy animal. They were proud to have played a part in its story, and they often reminisced about their own journey of self-discovery. And so, the pit bull lived out the rest of its days, bringing comfort and joy to those in need, and serving as a reminder that with a little bit of love and patience, even the most feared and dangerous creatures can be tamed. One day, they received news that a local animal rescue group was looking for a pit bull to train as a therapy animal. The group of teenagers rallied together, and they convinced the animal control officers to let the pit bull go to the rescue group. The pit bull went to the rescue group, and it started its training as a therapy animal. The group of teenagers visited it regularly, and they were amazed at how well the animal was doing. It was gentle and kind, and it seemed to have a natural talent for making people feel better.